The Outcast's Choice. A story of courage, dignity, and defiance. The New Mexico sun was a hammer, and the earth was an anvil. Everything between got beaten flat. Daniel Mercer was mending fence wire when he heard the horses. 3 riders, moving slow and deliberate across the scrubland toward his property. He knew before they got close that this wasn't a social call. They stopped at his gate. Apache riders, faces hard as the desert rock. Between them, dragged by a rope, was a figure that barely looked human anymore. A woman, taller than most men Daniel knew, broad-shouldered, powerfully built, her buckskin dress torn and filthy. Her wrists were bound with rawhide that had cut deep into her flesh. Whip marks crisscrossed her back like a brutal roadmap of suffering. They untied the rope and let her fall at Daniel's gate like discarded cargo. She is Cedar G, cursed. The lead rider said in accented English, she brings death to the tribe. She is no longer Apache, no longer ours. Daniel looked down at the woman. She was breathing barely. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, labored gasps. You're just leaving her here to die. The rider's expression didn't change. She is already dead. The desert will finish what we started. They turned their horses and rode away without looking back, leaving a trail of dust and a dying woman at Daniel's feet. Daniel stood there for a long moment, staring down at the broken figure. He was 53 years old, a widower who'd lost everything that mattered 7 years ago. He'd learned the hard way that getting involved in other people's problems only brought suffering. The smart move, the survival move, was to walk away. Let nature take its course. Pretend he'd never seen anything. The woman's hand moved. Just slightly. Fingers clawing weakly at the sand like she was trying to pull herself toward some impossible salvation. Daniel cursed under his breath, bent down, and cut the rawhide from her wrists. God damn it, he muttered, lifting her dead weight onto his shoulders. She was heavier than any woman he'd ever carried, solid muscle and bone, built for endurance. Why can't I ever mind my own business? He carried her into his cabin and laid her on the floor near the fireplace. In the lamplight, the extent of her injuries became clear. Whip scars layered over older whip scars. Burns, rope marks at her wrists and ankles that suggested this wasn't the first time she'd been bound. This wasn't punishment. This was systematic torture. Daniel cleaned the wounds with water he couldn't afford to spare, wrapped them with cloth torn from his own shirts, and sat back against the wall with his rifle across his lap. Not because he feared her, but because he'd learned that trouble always came looking, and when it did, you'd better be ready. The woman didn't wake that first night. Just breath sounding like it cost her everything she had left. Daniel watched her and thought about the riders, about the word they'd used, cursed, about how easy it was to call someone cursed when you wanted an excuse to destroy them. He'd heard that word before. 7 years ago, when his wife and daughter had died of fever, people had whispered that his family was cursed, that he'd brought judgment on himself for some unnamed sin. People loved to blame victims, made them feel safer, like bad things only happened to people who deserved it. Daniel added wood to the fire and settled in for a long night. He'd saved her. Now he had to figure out what came next. Morning came with hard light and harder truths. Daniel woke to find the woman sitting upright, her back against the wall, a kitchen knife clutched in her scarred hand. Her eyes were alert, tracking his every movement. Easy, Daniel said, showing empty hands. You're not a prisoner, but you're also not strong enough to go anywhere yet. She didn't lower the knife. Why did you bring me here? Because leaving you to die didn't sit right. Most men wouldn't care. I'm not most men. She studied him for a long moment, then set the knife down. Not putting it away, just setting it within reach. Trust had to be earned. My name is Naira, she said. Her voice was deep, rough from dehydration and screaming. It means the one with big eyes. My mother gave it to me before the tribe decided I was a demon. Daniel Mercer. This is my ranch. Such as it is, Naira looked around the sparse cabin, one room. Minimal furniture. The lived-in emptiness of a man who'd stopped caring about comfort. You live alone. For 7 years now. Since my wife and daughter died, The tribe said I kill children. Naira's voice was flat, said my presence makes women barren, makes crops fail, makes men weak. She gestured at her own body. Look at me. I'm taller than most warriors, stronger than most men. They said I was neither man nor woman. An abomination. Daniel had seen it before. People who didn't fit neat categories scared others, and scared people became cruel people. You're a woman who's bigger than average, Daniel said. That's not a curse. That's just biology. Naira almost smiled. The elders didn't see it that way. When I couldn't bear children, they said I'd angered the spirits. When the hunting was poor, they blamed me. When the white soldiers came and killed 3 of our people, they said it was because I'd cursed the tribe. So they decided to kill you, slowly, publicly, so everyone could see what happens to cursed things. Naira touched the whip scars on her back. They've been doing this for 2 years. A little more each time, waiting for me to die or leave. Why didn't you leave? Where would I go? I'm Apache. The white towns won't take me. Other tribes won't shelter their enemies' outcasts. The only place I belonged was with my people. Her expression hardened, and they threw me away like spoiled meat. Daniel poured water into a bowl and set it near her. You're welcome to stay until you're healed. After that, you decide what you want to do, and if the tribe comes back for me, then we'll deal with it. Naira picked up the water bowl, drank carefully. When she set it down, she met Daniel's eyes. Why are you helping me? What do you want? Nothing. I couldn't walk away. Not again. Again. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then, 7 years ago, I heard screaming from my neighbor's property. I knew something bad was happening, but I told myself it wasn't my business. Told myself I had my own family to protect. He stared at his hands. Next morning, I found out Comanche raiders had attacked. Killed everyone. If I'd gone when I heard the screaming, maybe I could have helped. Maybe not, but I'll never know, because I was too afraid to try. And your family? Fever took them 6 months later. Had nothing to do with the raid, but I couldn't help thinking, what if karma is real? What if the universe was just balancing the scales? Naira was quiet. Then, the universe doesn't work that way. Bad things happen to everyone. Maybe, but I'm tired of being the kind of man who hears screaming and does nothing. They sat in silence after that. 2 broken people in a broken world, trying to figure out if there was any point in not being broken anymore. Outside, the desert wind blew hot and merciless. Inside, something fragile was taking root. Not friendship too soon for that, but recognition, understanding, the knowledge that some people survive, not because they're strong, but because they refuse to stop standing up. The first sign of trouble came 3 days later. Daniel was checking his water supply when he noticed fresh tracks near the property line. Unshod horses. Multiple riders. They'd circled his land, studying it, then retreated, watching, waiting. Naira saw his expression when he came back to the cabin. They've found me. Looks like you should tell me to leave. Before they come in force, Daniel set his rifle by the door, checked the ammunition. Should, but won't. Why not? You don't owe me anything. I'm not your responsibility. No, you're not. But sending you out there to die would make me the same as them, and I'm trying real hard not to be the same as them anymore. That night, they sat on the porch while the sun bled out across the horizon. Naira had recovered enough to walk without wobbling, though the whip scars still pained her. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. Ask. The tribe called you cursed. But what did you call yourself? Naira was quiet for a long time. I called myself Gil Njasiye, mountain warrior woman. Before they beat it out of me, I was proud. I could track better than most men, hunt better, fight better. I thought being strong was good. It is good. Not if you're a woman. Then it's threatening. She touched the scars at her wrists. They tried to make me small, weak, ashamed, and when I wouldn't break, they decided I was cursed. You didn't break because you're not meant to be small. Naira looked at him. Really looked at him. You talk like someone who understands. I understand what it's like to be punished for not fitting someone else's idea of what you should be. They fell silent again. But it was a different silence, now less wary. More poem, P-A-N-I-O-N-A-B-L-E. Then Naira said something that surprised them both. I haven't felt safe in 2 years. Not until now. Not until here. Daniel didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. Just sat beside her while the stars came out, keeping watch over a woman who'd forgotten what it felt like to not be hunted. The riders came at dawn, a dozen of them this time, led by the same Apache elder who'd left Naira at Daniel's gate. They stopped at the property line, making no move to cross it. Not yet. The elder raised his hand. White man, send out the cursed one. She must return to face the tribe's judgment. Daniel stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, but not raised. Naira stood beside him, unarmed but unafraid. She's not going anywhere, Daniel called back. She has polluted your home. Can you not see? She brings death. The only death I see is the death you're trying to cause. The elder's expression hardened. You do not understand our ways. She is Cedar G. She must be cleansed. Cleansed meaning killed. Cleansed meaning the curse is lifted. If she will not go willingly, we will take her. Daniel raised his rifle then, not aiming, just making a point. Then you'll have to go through me. A young warrior beside the elder laughed. 1 white man against 12. Those are foolish odds. Maybe, but the first 3 of you who cross that fence line will die guaranteed. And I'm betting none of you want to be in that first 3. The laughter stopped. Naira stepped forward. I am here by choice. I am no longer Apache. You cast me out. You can't take me back just because it's convenient. You do not choose. The elder shouted. The tribe chooses, and the tribe has spoken. Then the tribe can speak to empty air. I'm not coming. For a long moment, nobody moved. The tension stretched like wire about to snap. Then the elder did something Daniel didn't expect. He smiled. Very well. Stay with the white man. But know this, you are erased. Your name will not be spoken. Your deeds will not be remembered. You will die forgotten, with no ancestors to welcome you. No descendants to remember you. It was meant to be the worst punishment imaginable, spiritual death. Complete erasure from tribal memory and history. Naira met his eyes without flinching. I would rather be forgotten by a tribe that tortured me than remembered by one that called it love. The elder's smile vanished. He turned his horse and rode away, the other riders following. When they were gone, Daniel lowered his rifle. Naira stood perfectly still, staring at the horizon where the riders had disappeared. Are you okay? Daniel asked. I just lost everything. My name, my people, my history. She took a shaky breath. And somehow I feel lighter than I have in years. Daniel understood. Sometimes losing everything was the only way to find yourself. The weeks that followed passed in quiet work. Naira threw herself into ranch labor with fierce intensity, mending fences, hauling water, chopping wood. Her powerful frame, once a source of shame, became an asset. She could do the work of 2 men, and she did it without complaint. Daniel watched her transform from broken survivor to something else, something stronger. Not healed. Healing took time, but no longer defeated. They developed routines. Daniel cooked breakfast. Naira handled the heavy labor. They took turns on night watch, though the Apache never returned. They sat on the porch in the evenings, sometimes talking, sometimes not. It wasn't romance. It was something stranger and maybe more valuable. Partnership built on mutual respect and shared survival. One evening, 6 weeks after she'd arrived, Naira said something that surprised them both. I don't want to leave. Daniel looked up from the saddle he was repairing. Wasn't asking you to. I know. But I need to say it out loud. I choose to stay. Not because I'm afraid. Not because I have nowhere else to go. But because this is the first place I've ever felt like I could just be. Daniel nodded slowly. Then stay. Just like that. Just like that. Naira smiled. A real smile, the first he'd seen from her. "You're a strange man, Daniel Mercer, so I've been told." That night, they sat closer than usual on the porch. Not touching, neither of them were ready for that, but close enough that they could feel each other's presence. "Can I tell you something?" Naira asked. "Always. I spent 2 years believing I was cursed, believing there was something wrong with me, something broken." She looked down at her scarred hands. "And then you cut me loose and treated me like I was just a person, not a curse, not a demon. Just a person who'd been hurt. That's all you ever were. I know that now. But knowing it and feeling it are different things." She turned to him. "You gave me back my humanity. I don't know how to repay that." "You don't repay it. You just live, fully, without apologizing for who you are." Naira was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something brave. She took Daniel's hand. Her hand was large, calloused, scarred. His was weathered, lined with age and work. They fit together like two pieces of mismatched furniture that somehow made sense. They sat like that until the stars came out. Two outcasts who'd found sanctuary in each other's company. Not romance, not rescue, just recognition. And in the harsh New Mexico desert, that was enough. Epilogue: the choice to stand 2 years later. A traveler came through Daniel's property. Lost and looking for directions, he found a small ranch, well-maintained, with crops growing in neat rows and cattle grazing in healthy pastures. A tall woman was working the field, powerfully built, moving with confidence. A man was repairing the barn roof, moving slower but steady. When the traveler asked for help, the woman approached without fear. She gave clear directions, offered water, and sent him on his way with a nod. The man watched from the barn, rifle nearby but not needed. After the traveler left, he climbed down and joined the woman at the field's edge. "Think he noticed anything unusual?" Naira asked. "Noticed a strong woman doing good work. Nothing unusual about that." Naira smiled. "The tribe sent word last month. Asked if I wanted to return. Said they'd made a mistake. Said I was welcome." Daniel's expression didn't change. "What did you tell them?" "I told them I was already home." Daniel nodded. "Good answer." They walked back toward the cabin together. To people who'd learned that home wasn't where you came from. It was where you were allowed to be yourself without apology. The desert wind blew warm across the land. They'd built together not from romance, not from rescue, but from the simple revolutionary act of refusing to let the world tell them who they had to be. Behind them, the ranch stood strong against the setting sun. And for the first time in their lives, both Daniel and Naira understood being called cursed by cruel people wasn't a condemnation. It was a badge of honor. It meant you'd refused to break, refused to be small, refused to apologize for surviving. And in a world that demanded conformity, that refusal was the bravest thing of all.